Hello, I'm Toycat, and if you think that this is the Netherlands, then you would be sorely wrong, because this is the Netherlands. Although, obviously you're talking about the Kingdom of the Netherlands, which looks like this, or at least it used to. The modern-day Netherlands is a relatively small country in northwestern Europe. It's very flat and very densely populated, and it just borders Belgium and Germany. You might assume if you're looking on Google Maps. However, the interesting thing is, the Netherlands actually borders France. It has mountains which are thousands of miles away from Amsterdam, and also it uses the US dollar as its currency. That is a surprising thing to learn. They might all sound like fake facts, but let me show you why they're true today, because just like many other Western European nations which had successful empires, not all of that empire has truly fully left. All of the most successful countries will leave the empire eventually. This is true. This is the state of decolonization, but lots of very small countries and territories never really consider leaving their host country, and that's why even though the Netherlands has lost Indonesia, perhaps its most famous colony, there are many parts of the world which are still under control of the Netherlands, particularly when it comes to the Caribbean. So this is the Netherlands, and this is the Caribbean part of the Netherlands, which we're going to be focusing on today. There are 6 separate weird territories. They all have incredibly strange things going on with them that make the Netherlands one of the strangest modern-day empires. So today we're going to be going through the Kingdom of the Netherlands and its modern-day empire. It's as of current year of recording, but first I need to make an important announcement because this video is sponsored by Bad Keying. That's right, do you want to have weird artifacts around you? Then buy a green screen, but poorly light it. And you know, I'm sorry, my light is behind the green screen. It's all a big mess. Use code TOYCAT if you want to get 10% worse effects when moving around as your screen gets worse. If you look at the Caribbean, you see these titles, a healthy proportion of this actually belongs to the Netherlands. You might think that Aruba and Curacao, because they are popular tourist destinations, are actually countries because they have the exact same labeled text that a country does, but you'd be wrong in thinking that, but also right in thinking that, because this is these countries right here, some of the closest to Venezuela, are actually part of the Netherlands. So if we go back to this handy map, you can see there's Aruba and there's Curacao. Wow, isn't that interesting? But the weird thing is there is a third island also belonging to the Netherlands. You can tell because their capital is called Krakendijk. But if you look at Krakendijk over here, you'll notice very interestingly that they do not have a title on them. This is because unlike Aruba and Curacao, which are somewhat independent, Bonaire is a full part of the Netherlands, and alongside Saba and St. Eustace, interestingly enough, it actually votes in Dutch elections. This is the Dutch election map. They're divided into constituencies across the country, and each of those constituencies vote. You know how elections work. But in the corner over here, what's that? The 3 Caribbean islands I just mentioned all have their own MP who they vote and send to the Dutch Parliament. Wow, that means that in a way they affect the laws in the Netherlands and vice versa. That is very strange, but it's just the start of how things get weird here, because yeah, it's incredibly strange that there is a real part of the Netherlands, a full legal 100% part of the Netherlands right here. But what's even stranger is the fact that, okay, so you can understand that these 3 islands right here, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, are the ABC Islands. There are 3 of these islands, and then there are 3 more islands found over here, and this is so there's Saba over here with the bottom, there's St. Eustace over here, and then there is Sint Maarten, and these 3 nations make up the SSS Islands. They're kind of in the north of the Caribbean, relatively speaking, near Puerto Rico and Montserrat, and it's found all the way over here, and so there are 2 parts of the Netherlands, the SSS Islands, and there's the ABC Islands, and 3 of these islands make up like countries in their own right within the Netherlands, and 3 of these make up just part of the Netherlands, and fortunately for you, it's made nice and easy by the fact that they're actually divided 2-1 in both ways. So here's a really handy flowchart that makes everything so easy to understand. The Netherlands is a country made up mostly of the European Netherlands. Lots of provinces and a semi-federal style system. And then there is Holland, which is what people call the Netherlands, but it's actually 2 separate provinces within that European Netherlands. Then part of the Netherlands proper are Bonaire, St. Eustace, and Saba. And then there is the Kingdom of the Netherlands, ruled by the monarchy, which is mostly the same thing, but includes the countries of Aruba, Curacao, and St. Maarten. The reason you have to say countries with big air quotes is because even though they are countries, they fall under the Netherlands immigration policy, Asterisk we'll come back to later. It's really fun. But they are controlled by their UN seat and their military. They just kind of make their own laws. Is making your own laws something that makes you a country? If so, then, I don't know, like Scotland and Quebec are already independent, you might say. And so there's a really interesting point to be made about independence here. But long story short, there's the Kingdom of the Netherlands, which contains Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin. And there's the Netherlands, which contains Bonaire, St. Eustace, and Saba. And yeah, when you look at St. Eustace and Saba, they're both relatively unremarkable places, besides for the fact that Saba, which has a population of like 1,000, no one lives here. They couldn't be an independent country if they tried. They've got one restaurant, they've got 2 hotels, they've got a hospital, a spa line with facials and body sculpting, and a beach. If that makes a country, then I guess I should start one myself, clearly. But anyway, you can see the Saba is a relatively uninteresting island, except for the fact that if you look up Mount Scenery, that's right, this beautiful mountain. I mean, as far as mountains go, it's a good one, right? We're all liking Mount Scenery. As far as, if you look at Mount Scenery, it is an active volcano which makes up the highest point of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. That's right, the highest point in the Netherlands, a country you might still assume is found all the way over here. That's right, this is the Netherlands. You have been taught erroneously by your maps. The highest point in the Netherlands is found all the way over here instead. I always have a hard time finding it, because who goes to the bottom? It's the bottom of the barrel as far as tourist destinations are concerned. And so yeah, this is a full part of the Netherlands. You can vote from the top of that mountain, and so that is the highest point in the Netherlands. I mean, is it really? I mean, also, is a stratovolcano, whatever that is that a, you can make a big debate all day about like whether it really is, but legally speaking, and you know, empire reasons speaking, it's true. Next up here, I want to talk about Bonaire. Also, they have flamingos on Bonaire, and I was looking into them, and I'm sure everyone knows this fact by now, but if you don't, 1, flamingos are such a fake-looking bird. Look at this thing. Like, this is real? Are we going to say that? But second of all, did you know that flamingos aren't pink? They just eat something that makes them pink? I mean, are you... I guess, like, I'm not white. I just don't go out in the sun to make myself not white. But, you know, that's the same thing with flamingos. Also, yeah, look at them. They're just ridiculous. Anyway, speaking of ridiculous, Bonaire is the most ridiculous part of the Netherlands because, yeah, so as far as parts of the Netherlands proper, this is the only part that has significant number of people living there. And even then, we're talking about 40,000 people. And it's really weird because people go there to watch flamingos. And so you might assume, okay, people go to the Netherlands to watch flamingos right next to Venezuela. I can just about wrap my head around that until you say that, like, oh yeah, so interestingly enough, it's part of the ABC Islands, and they use the US dollar as their currency. Wait, they're fully integrated into the Netherlands, fully integrated, and they use the US dollar as their currency. It's true. There is a part of the Netherlands using the dollar, and it's and apparently there are flamingos there too. Again, you really have to kind of stretch your definition of. You start to realize that when you're saying like a country name, you really are referring to the European part of that country, but legally speaking, no, you're not. The UN seat belongs to all of this combined, not just to this weird blob right here, even though most of the population lives there. And so, yeah, the US dollar is valid in part of the Netherlands. Yeah, they have their own separate visa, quite interestingly. And also interestingly, they drive on the right side of the road like the Netherlands, but there's not a single stoplight on the entire island, and the highest speed you can get is 60 kilometers an hour. That's 35 miles per hour. That is really low, but I guess it's a small island, so you don't really need to care. But still, fascinating. Not a single stoplight. If you like going places and you don't like stopping for, you know, red lights and avoiding accidents, then Bonaire is the place to be. But yeah, the most interesting parts of the Netherlands definitely have to be the ones without flamingos. I mean, is this even a real bird, or is this a part of the Bonaire advertising campaign? I'm just saying, you ever seen one with your own eyes? I don't know if you have. Anyway, with that said, the most interesting parts are these three right here, or I guess these three right here, because they are interesting enough to want to be their own countries. And so the first one we should talk about is Aruba. Aruba is very famous with US tourists. Again, it's interesting to me because it's riverless. There's not a single river on the island. I think it makes sense that there are lots of islands without rivers, but it's still weird for me to hear that, like, their entire existence, you show an Aruban a river, they're going to be shocked. They're going to be blown away. Like, wait, the water flows and it's not salty water? Where does it come from? I mean, honestly, I was pretty confused when I first understood that river water was clean, or clean. Anyway, with that said, yeah, the Southwest has some white sand beaches, which people love. People go snorkeling there. It's a whole thing. And interestingly enough, even though this is a country, unlike the Bonaire, which is part of the Netherlands and therefore not its own country, they use the It's called the Aruban Florin or something like that. Yeah, the AWG. It's sometimes called the Guilder. It has a currency which is like not the Dutch Guilder, but was kind of related to it and is pegged to the dollar, but it's pegged to the dollar at a really weird rate. Also, something fascinating is they have their own national flag and coat of arms, and it's all quite strange. And they're basically designed to be as simple as possible for Americans getting out, which is interesting when you look at this Aruba right here, because when we look at, say, Curacao, you'll see that, like, okay, what's going on with them? They use the same Netherlands Antillia Guilder, the ANG. Wait, is that the same? The Aruban Florin versus so they use different currencies, even though if you actually dive into those currencies, you'll realize it's even more confusing because, like, they're both okay. So the Aruba and Curacao are right next to each other, and they use currencies that aren't the euro or the dollar, but they're their own thing because they're independent countries. Okay, they've got flags. That's how this works. It's nice and easy. But my favorite place in the world has to be Saint Martin. So this is the fun fact everyone loves to say. France and the Netherlands actually border each other. This island right here, the north of it is legally France. This is just, the euro is there, Macron is the president, that's just how things are. And the south, this is legally the Netherlands. It's the Kingdom of the Netherlands, so it's sort of a country. But the Netherlands borders France out here in the Caribbean in a place you probably don't think about. And one of the most interesting things about this border is that European borders are really, really smooth and seamless. I mean, have you ever tried crossing from the Netherlands to France? Did you notice any passport control or anything? The only time that you ever get your passport checked is going in and out of Switzerland, in my experience, because they're a weird thing that isn't really EU, but sort of pretends to be. The EU is very seamless, and it's designed that way. It's basically a giant economic incentive by using the same currency, despite its flaws, by using the same currency, by using as many similar standards as they can, including a universal lawmaking body which can make rules about iPhones and Teslas. By having a big body that covers the continent or the big trading bloc, they can standardize trade across borders. However, this same body does not apply to the outermost territories of France and the Netherlands, and so if you look into Saint Martin, you'll find the weirdest split between two countries. So not only is it split between two separate European countries, so that's kind of fun by itself, but also they are called such similar things, Saint Martin and Sint Maarten. I can't speak Dutch properly, but it's divided between those two places, not quite equally, but almost close to it. And so to avoid confusion, they just call them the French side and the Dutch side. Even people in the area are just like, okay, Saint Martin, people are going to get confused, so we'll just call it French and Dutch side, which is already off to a great start in my opinion. But the other fun thing is that the French side uses the French power standard, 250 volts and 50 hertz, while the Netherlands side uses the American standard, not the European standard, the American standard of 110 volts and 60 hertz. Also, when dialing from French to Dutch or Dutch to French, it's an international call because in Europe there are no charges for such a thing. But in the Caribbean, in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, in non-EU regulated places, that can happen, and it's kind of a crazy thing. Also, on the Dutch side, there are different property laws to on the French side, and also on the Dutch side, they use the Netherlands Antilles Florin, the NAF. Wait, I recognize that. No, I don't. Wait, is there really? Are you joking me right now? Is there an Aruban Florin? There's a Netherlands Antillean Guilder, and then there's also the Netherlands Antillean Florin. So they all use Netherlands' sounding they all use currencies that sound more Dutch than the actual Dutch currency, the euro, kind of like I mentioned before. And you know what? This is just, the more you dive into it, the more you realize it's ridiculous. You know what else is ridiculous? Accessing this part of the Netherlands, in fact, accessing any of these parts of the Netherlands, even Bonaire, which is distinctly, legally just part of the country itself, even though it uses the dollar, you actually need to get a visa for that. There is a short stay Caribbean visa you need to find. And so this is the Kingdom of the Netherlands, their official government, as well as offering visas for their country, they have to offer visas for their Caribbean country. And this Caribbean visa is separate to their main one. So if you want to stay in the Caribbean for 90 days or less, you get a short stay visa. It depends on your nationality, but you can get it if you're transiting through them as well. I don't know how often that happens, but you can. But yeah, it's for 90 days and 180, and it's not valid for country to the European part of the Netherlands or any other Schengen area country. They have the ability to issue their own visas in a way that, their own access to the country in a way that Schengen countries obviously can't. In this part of the Netherlands, and they do for the most part. It's very, very, very strange. Also, you can stay in these places for up to 30 consecutive days, but if you need to stay longer than 30 days, you contact the authorities. But for these ones, you have to, you can stay for 90 days and 180. Man, that is this is all very confusing. Also, travel during Corona. That's cute that they just call it that. And yeah, they also have their own You know what? I'm starting to think that having empires and then having those empires slowly fall while trying to maintain some semblance of this making sense gets very confusing very quickly. I think the easiest way to look at this is just to remember that the Netherlands has people tell you the Netherlands is flat, but this is what the Netherlands looks like, and that is beautiful if you ask me. We should get like a flag version of this and just be like, this is the Netherlands. That's a good idea. You know, that's a good merch idea that I'm not gonna make, because you know what I do here? I make bad videos about geography, and I hope that you enjoyed it, because if you did, that means you have bad taste, and you might consider subscribing to see another one of these bad taste videos. I'm just kidding. I sometimes make okay things, and if you subscribe, you can see those. And if you want to support more of them, consider following me on Patreon. You can buy me a strange beverage, a kebab, or even the legendary lobster roll. I don't know why there's no picture for strange beverage. You know, that is the quality standards on this channel. And yeah, just remember, next time someone tries to tell you this is the Netherlands, they're lying to you. They're hiding the truth. They're pulling the wool over your eyes. And don't let them do it, because I'll see you next time. Second channel. Oh, I got an order I've got to pick up. Oh, God. Goodbye. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. They didn't make it yet. Wait, no, they cancelled my order.